The Knicks lose a nail-biter to the Bulls at Madison Square Garden. Giannis and Wemby both score 50 huge games from them. How long can OKC get away with playing small ball, and are the Wolves in some serious trouble? It's all coming up on today's Locked On NBA Game Night.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
What is up, and welcome to another edition of Locked On NBA Game Night. Every game, every single night. I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, also host of Locked On Rockets right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. And joining me, as he does each and every week from South Beach, is the host of Locked On Heat, David Ramil. David, what did you see in the NBA last night?
A lot of high scoring, a lot of great performances, a lot of interesting games, a lot of basketball. Let's get to it.
Oh, man, we got an 11-game slate here for you guys tonight. Where we're going to start, we're going to take you all the way out to New York as the Knicks lost in heartbreaking fashion to the Chicago Bulls. Let's go to the host of Locked On Knicks, Gavin Shaw, to hear all about it.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Gavin Shaw of the Locked On Knicks podcast following a heartbreaking 124-123 loss to the Chicago Bulls. The Knicks screwed around and found out in this one as they played with their food for a little bit too long. Part of it was this was their first back-to-back of the season. It certainly looked like it. Dead legs early. I don't want to say a disinterest in defense, but certainly a lack of physicality. It didn't really make the Bulls feel them in the first half. Chicago thrived in transition, finishing with 26 fast break points. The efficiency was off the mark. Felt like they scored every single time they were able to push the ball. The Knicks failed to match up. Sometimes just, again, not enough force at the rim. And Zach LaVine and Kobe White feasted. The Bulls also shot it really well down the stretch. But it looked like the Knicks were going to pull this off for a while. An 18-0 run in the third quarter erased that 22-point game-high lead. Jalen Brunson, some heroics down the stretch, back-to-back shots over Patrick Williams, supplementing a ridiculous 46-point night from Karl Anthony-Towns, where he just looked unstoppable. Unfortunately for the Knicks, Josh Hart, dumb foul on Kobe White, shooting a three, up by 2 with 3.5 seconds left. White made all 3 free throws, and then Jalen Brunson would be game winner. Went in and out, so the Knicks fall to 5-6, continuing a very topsy-turvy start to a season that has very high expectations in New York.
Man, the ending of this game was just brutal for New York, David. I mean, look, Gavin talked about, the Knicks playing with their food. I think the food was playing with them a little bit, right? I mean, the Bulls led by as many as 22 in this game. Yeah, Cat had a huge night, 46 points, 18 of 30. On the other side, Zach LaVine for the Bulls, 31 points leading the way, 12 of 17 shooting for him. I mean, for Josh Hart, right? Such an incredible defender, one of the NBA's elite perimeter defenders, to make a mistake like that in the closing seconds of a game. Just you can't have that happen if you're New York.
But it was set up by what had happened in the previous possession when they were trying to inbound the ball, and he was getting into a shoving match with Zach LaVine, and it got to a point where they had to be separated by referees, and LaVine's just saying, I'm trying to gain position here on the inbound play, and Hart wasn't having it. He kind of set himself up for it because obviously he was making it known, look, I'm not going to back down. I'm going to be physical, etc. And so what happens in the next play? Probably a ticky-tack foul. Put a hand on Kobe White's hip, and White certainly did a great job of selling it, sprawling his legs and making it look like the contact was a lot greater than what it was. And he sold it, and he sold it really well. He got 3 free throws, and he managed to hit them all. So, I mean, Hart, I think as great a player as he is, as much heart as he brings, etc., the commentator said it best. He wasn't playing very smart basketball, and I think he set himself up for that foul call.
I don't even know if the rhyme was intentional there, but Hart, not smart. Like there's some, Dr. Seussical musical stuff going on with these words being thrown around. Look,
2 o'clock in the morning. I'm not rhyming on purpose at this time.
Look, okay. So, it was a tough ending to the game, right? The Jalen Brunson, would be game winner, rims in and out, like it spins around the rim and just barely ekes out. Look, I'm so curious here. The Knicks, look, first off, I do think that, there was that viral thing going around with Karl Anthony-Towns, like his defending percentages at the rim and all that. And I think that was maybe a little overblown, but at the same time, the Knicks are a worse defensive team this season than they were last year. Last year, they were a top 10 defense. They finished 9th in the NBA. This year, they're currently ranked 19th defensively. They've given up like 132 to the Celtics, to the Pacers. They gave up 124 here to the Bulls, 121 and another loss to the Hawks. at what point, like, can the Knicks get back to last year's defense with Karl Anthony-Towns in the middle, or are they going to be stuck as kind of a middling defensive team this season, do you think?
I think they'll be a little better than they were. I don't think they're going to be better than or as good as they were last year. And I think they're just going to have to lean into a new identity of being able to find greater balance from their offensive strengths rather than their defensive ones. So I think that's probably where we'll wind up. Towns is an okay defender, not particularly great, but they still have a good cast around them. They've just been beset by injuries. Their depth hasn't been great. It's been a lot to deal with and to a rocky start of the season, as Gavin said. So I think they'll wind up being better, but not as good as they were.
Let's go ahead and jump out to our next game where we head out to Los Angeles as the Lakers get the win against the Grizzlies. Let's hear from Andy Kamenetsky over at Locked On Lakers.
Kamenetsky co-hosts a Locked On Lakers podcast, and the Lakers get a 128-123 win over the Memphis Grizzlies. They're now 7-0 at home. After building up a double-digit first-quarter lead, the Lakers' execution got really choppy and discombobulated for a lot of the second quarter. Early in the third, Anthony Davis got into foul trouble dealing with the physicality of Jaren Jackson Jr. and especially Zach Edey. But the game eventually turned around for the Lakers thanks to a 35-point triple-double from LeBron James, solid nights from Austin Reeves and Rui Hachimura, and a 19-point explosion off the bench from rookie Dalton Knecht, including 5 3-pointers. For more Lakers coverage, make sure you are watching Locked On Lakers on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.
A good win for a Lakers team, despite the fact, look, this is a Grizzlies team that didn't have Ja Morant in this game. And even though they didn't have Ja, David, I'm always so impressed by this Grizzlies team because I feel like even when they're missing key contributors, when they're missing Ja, missing Triple J, I still feel like they go out there and they are one of those effective teams that despite missing some of their star players, they're still able to go out there and give you hell. And unfortunately in this game, though, a couple former Lakers not able to get their revenge in this game. Jay Huff and Scottie Pippen Jr. Didn't get the revenge dub against LA in this one.
But yeah, it's a good point, though. The Grizzlies always find a way to make it. And look, Jaren Jackson Jr. wound up taking on a lot of the offensive load for Ja. He was 29 points. He was fantastic tonight. He really dominated the matchup versus AD, got him into foul trouble. It seemed like Davis really couldn't do a lot with the way Jackson was able to approach the rim and et cetera. So I think it was a fantastic game for him. But you know what? On the Lakers side of it, let's not ignore what the Lakers have done. First of all, phenomenal triple-double by LeBron James. But on top of that, the rookie Knecht, I think he was so vital. I know Andy said it best, but it was just a great performance from him to kind of help carry the team when at a point where they were finding an offensive lull. He did a great job of being able to just get them back into the game with his incredible shooting.
How long before JJ Redick gets ultimately fed up with D'Angelo Russell? Like we've seen him move to the bench. Like that's already happened. And there were points in this game where like D'Lo, he has this thing where he loves to look off LeBron and AD. Like he thinks he's him on the court at all times. I just wonder when is this ultimately going to run its course where JJ just gets fed up with what D'Lo does on the court on a nightly basis?
I'm sure he's already fed up privately, but I think he's going to find a way to connect with D'Lo. Like I think if there's a strength of Redick, it's the way he's able to connect with the current players because he sees himself as one, he's recently retired, et cetera. So I think there's still these active relationships there. And I think he understands what it's like to be a player that's going through it and being able to connect and communicate. If there's one thing that players love more than anything else from their head coaches, it's just be honest, communicate openly. And I think Redick is capable of that. So at some point, he's going to have to sit down and have the conversation, say, dude, you're killing us out there. You're going to need to do something more because I don't want to not play you, but you're getting to that point where you're unplayable.
Coming up, Giannis went off for the Bucks. Wemby went off for the Spurs. And are the Sacramento Kings the kryptonite to the Phoenix Suns? We're going to get there in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Look, you got to check out Game Time. It is the best ticket buying experience on the market right now. They've got Game Time picks. It filters out the fluff to only show you incredible deals on great seats. You don't have to waste time searching through thousands of different ticketing offers. If there's a game, if you've got a team, your favorite team playing somewhere near you this weekend, go check out Game Time. And they've got so many great features that make it incredible. They've got their ticket covers, their lowest price guarantee, views from your seat, so you know exactly what to expect when you get to the stadium. My personal favorite, their all-in pricing feature. When you download the app, you toggle on the all-in pricing feature. They're fully transparent from start to finish. You don't ever get those surprise hidden fees. So take the guesswork out of buying your tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off of your first purchase. Again, terms apply. Create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDON NBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. And continuing on here at Locked On NBA Game Night, where we thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. Go check out, we've got a local host, a local show covering your team, whatever market you're in. Go check out Locked On Heat with David. Come check out Locked On Rockets with me. We've got an expert for every team in the association. David, let's get to our next game here on this list. The Pistons losing in overtime to the Milwaukee Bucks, a game in which Giannis Antetokounmpo put up 59 points. He was dominant. Let's take it out to Camille Davis, host of Locked On Bucks.
The Milwaukee Bucks pick up a huge overtime win against the Pistons, 127-120, behind a dominant, one of the best Giannis performances that we have seen. 59 points. Giannis himself alone kept the team connected. I mean, in the first quarter, he scored by himself 22 of the 24 first quarter Bucks points. He kept the team connected until somebody else could step up, and the Bucks saw their defense step up. A big game from Brook Lopez as well, who came on late for the Bucks. A much-needed win for a Bucks team that was without Damian Lillard, without Chris Middleton, without Bobby Portis at the last second, as well as without Ryan Rollins, a brand new addition to the lineup for the team. But the Bucks were able to find a way behind the power of Giannis.
Look, David, I know that this is a Bucks team that's dealing with a lot of adversity to start this season, but talk about literally putting the team on your shoulders in this game for Giannis.
Tremendous performance. But you know what, man? Like, I got to point at 16 of 17 free throws. Obviously, I know he's improved over the course of his career, but he outshot in terms of total free throw attempts the entire Detroit Pistons team. He was getting to the line a lot. I won't take anything away from his ability to get to the basket. Like, he was phenomenal. 1 of 2 on 3-pointers, hitting the mid-range jumper on occasion too. He was just unstoppable. But what a performance from him. At the same time, he did get a lot of calls in his favor. I know Kuka Hill over at Locked On Pistons is probably going to be complaining about some of the officiating tonight.
Oh, man. Well, I'll tell you what, they got a foul that, I mean, maybe a questionable call at the end of regulation, right? Where Ron Holland, first off, beautiful ATO drawn up by JB Bickerstaff. He's had a lot of great ATO plays this season for the Pistons. And, you know, Ron Holland, he dives towards the rim, right? They lob it in and he gets fouled, right? Ron Holland has a chance to put this game away at the free throw line. It's tied up 111 all with a second left on the clock. And I believe Milwaukee didn't have a timeout either. So if he had hit just one of those 2 free throws, it would have been curtains. He goes 0-2 at the line, and then they get into overtime. And I think Milwaukee scored like the first, I think 8 or 9 straight points in OT. This was just one of those losses where if you're the Pistons, you're like, man, young team, you're going to take some of these L's and learn along the way, huh?
Look, a second straight night, back-to-back. They were faced Miami in overtime just yesterday, and they actually beat Miami on a great one of those great ATO plays as well, not to mention a boneheaded mistake by Eric Spoelstra, something you don't get to say very often. But yes, they kind of collapsed a little bit late. They were leading for a lot of the way, and then Giannis just kind of carried them through, helped Milwaukee get back into it, and then of course they wound up dominating the overtime thanks to him and some timely buckets from Brook Lopez and Gary Trent Jr.
Let's get down to San Antonio, where Victor Wembanyama had a massive game, his new career high. He hits 50. Let's throw it out to host of Locked On Spurs, Jeff Garcia.
First, here to react to Wemby's 50-point night versus the Wizards. What more can you say about Victor Wembanyama? You know, after a slow start, including a game where he went 1 for 5. Yeah, 5 touches he had on a game recently in the Spurs' early part of the season. He has come on of late, dropping 50 points against the Wizards. He did it all. It was inside. It was outside. It was in the paint. It was from the 3 line. Yes, the 3 line, something that he's been talking about a lot that he wants to get better at as the season goes on. You know, he brought up a interesting point ahead of the night versus the Wizards, where he said some nights he's going to go 66% from the 3 line. Some nights he's not, only 25%. Well, yeah, he said to take that in stride, and boy, did he. He is the real deal. He is the cornerstone for the Spurs. and dare I say, he could be the face of the face of the league, not necessarily the franchise, the entire NBA.
So first off, Wemby clearly maybe has heard some of the criticisms of his game, right? Hey, Wemby, you're 7'4", get inside, get down low, get on the block. And then he turns it around and has this 8 of 16 shooting performance. I mean, the talent is absolutely there, a dominant performance from him. But to Jeff's point, David, could Wemby, right? First off, I got to ask, will Wemby ever be the de facto face of the NBA in your eyes, do you think? And if so, how many years before it happens?
We've had this discussion before on Locked On NBA before we became co-hosts. So, me and Matt Moore, formerly of Locked On NBA, used to talk about who was the face of the NBA. And it's rare. It's never been an international player. And I just can't see that happening at any point soon. Wembanyama, as great a talent as he is, playing for a smaller market in San Antonio, and unless they achieve some kind of incredible success within the short term, he'll probably just be recognized as one of those great players. Look, even Nikola Jokic, as great a player as he is, a 3-time MVP, etc., I don't think anybody views him as the face of the NBA, mostly because, well, he's kind of antisocial. He doesn't really want to have that kind of spotlight on him all the time. But there is no real face of the NBA. If you're going to say there's anybody, it's probably still LeBron at this point, and he's clearly aging out of that role. So I don't know. I don't see it happening anytime soon. I don't think it's likely that it'll be a foreign-born player, but I think he can still be the most dominant player the same way Jokic has been.
I can absolutely see that being more so the outcome for Wemby's, I guess, career trajectory, or just how he's labeled when it comes to the NBA landscape. And again, it's always been an American-born guy, right? Like, it's always been, and a lot of people have tagged like Anthony Edwards will be like the next true face of the NBA. I feel like he probably has the strongest chance at this point, which is not a shot at Wemby's, talent or anything like that. But let's go ahead and get out to our next game here. We're going to go all the way out to the West Coast. The Sacramento Kings getting a very convincing win against the Phoenix Suns. Let's throw it to Matt George, host of Locked On Kings.
Matt George here in the Golden One Center, where it looked like 2022 again. The vintage Sacramento Kings offense that was the best in the league that season made its reappearance tonight, led by De'Aaron Fox, who looked like he was 22 years old again. The Phoenix Suns had absolutely no answer. The man was getting downhill, getting to the rim at will. Nothing the Suns could do to stop him, and then when he touched the paint, the defense collapsed. He sprayed out to some nice three-pointers. He had 10 assists tonight for another double-double. Kevin Huerter, fantastic tonight for the Kings, not just scoring the basketball, his first 20-point game of the season, but Kevin Huerter has been stuffing the stat sheet in other ways. He had 3 steals tonight for the 3rd straight game, so don't be telling Kevin Huerter that he can't play defense. DeMar DeRozan only played the first half of this game, left the game with lower back tightness, and the fact that the Sacramento Kings played their fastest paced and most, I guess, overall smooth offense when DeMar DeRozan only took 2 shots, I wouldn't say it's concerning, but I do think it's worth noting. Look, DeMar likes to slow things down. DeMar likes to work in the half court. He likes to work in the mid-range isolation. So what the Sacramento Kings have to do is find a good balance between DeMar getting his, but the Kings also moving the basketball the way they did tonight. The good news is DeMar played 17 minutes in the first half, and the ball was moving great then too. So we know it's possible.
So the Kings looking like the Kings of old, right? Vintage Sacramento Kings. I thought, look, obviously with the addition of DeMar DeRozan, you knew that, okay, their offense was going to maybe take a little bit of a backseat, as far as the 3-point volume, stuff like that. I did not expect them, David, to come in and be as bad of a 3-point shooting team as they have been so far this season. They are a bottom 3. They were the worst 3-point shooting team in the association after this game. They've since moved up to 2nd from the bottom. Only the Orlando Magic are worse than them at this point. Is this surprising to you at all, or is this more kind of how you expected the Kings to play this season?
Yeah, I thought they would just lead into that kind of a different offensive approach. When everybody else is zigging with their 3-point shot selection, they're zagging, and that's just the way they've kind of leaned into it. They can get a bucket at any time when you have as great a historically great scorer as DeMar DeRozan on the roster. You got Sabonis, you've got Fox, you've got Herder, and everybody else, Keegan Murray. Like, they've got a lot of great players on that roster. You're just kind of leaning into an identity where you're not relying on the 3-point shot as much, nor as much on defense. But come on, let's also be honest here. No knock on Matt. As great as the performance was, no Kevin Durant, no Bradley Beal, a Phoenix Suns team on the second night of a back-to-back. Come on. It wasn't as great a victory as he made it sound.
Yeah, so we're not ready to claim that the Kings are the kryptonite for the Suns. Yeah, I mean, look, they are responsible for 2/3 of the Suns' losses right now. The Suns have lost 3 times, and 2 of them have been to Sacramento in the early stretch of this season.
Fair enough.
Okay, all right. So we're not quite ready to dub them there, but coming up, how long can the OKC Thunder get away with playing small ball for, and how worried should we be about the Minnesota Timberwolves after 2 straight bad losses against the Portland Trailblazers? We're going to get there in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one spot. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the exact same page where you actually place your bets. Head on over to FanDuel.com to join today. And while you're there, take a look at all the different odds available. Check out their parlay builder. Check out the different season awards, or just the outright favorites to win this year's Super Bowl. Right now, the Chiefs plus 430 to win it all. The Lions right behind them, though, at plus 460. The Ravens plus 600. And rounding out the top 5, you have the Bills at plus 800 and the 49ers at plus 1,000. So for all those odds and so much more, head on over to FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And final segment here at Locked On NBA Game Night, where we are going to take it out to the middle of the country. We're going to go out to Oklahoma City, where the Thunder got an easy win against the Pelicans. Let's hear from Locked On Pelicans host Jake Madison.
Pelicans lose 106-88 against the Oklahoma City Thunder. I'm Jake Madison, host of the daily Locked On Pelicans podcast. Look, it's tough to win games when there's 100 points in street clothes sitting on your bench. No Zion Williamson, no DeJounte Murray, no CJ McCollum, no Jose Alvarado, no Herb Jones for the New Orleans Pelicans. Look, even against an injured Oklahoma City Thunder team missing Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren, they're still going to be at a significant disadvantage. And until some of these guys get healthy, this is just what it's probably going to be for the New Orleans Pelicans. Look, if you're looking for silver linings, more victories, they were close in the first half, and it really wasn't until the second half when this game got away from him. You're seeing the effort, you're seeing the hustle, but ultimately talent wins out in the NBA. And right now the Pelicans are so injured, they're playing two-way guys that were basically barely in the league. It's just not a lot of talent. Opposing teams are going to win. That's just going to be how it goes, I think, for right now.
Yeah, David, I think the Pelicans are kind of screwed at this point. Like, they've got so many injuries. It doesn't feel like and in a stacked Western Conference, I don't think they're going to be able to recover.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, what's the timeline on most of these injuries? They'll be back at some point, but you can't really afford to give up as much ground as it looks like they were. So they're just going to have to find a way to tread water, maybe eke out a victory out of every 3 games. That being the case, doesn't seem like they're going to be able to hang with some of the top tier teams. Maybe they can claw their way into a play-in seed and make some noise if they're finally fully healthy towards the end of the season, but that seems a little unrealistic even at this point.
Well, on the other side of things, the Thunder still sitting at the top of the Western Conference, still one of the teams to beat. How long do we think they can get away with playing small ball for? They're rolling out J-Dub as their starting center. They're not expected to get any of their legitimate bigs, right? Chet Holmgren out for the next two and a half months. Isaiah Hartenstein won't make it back until I think him and Jalen Williams, the other Jalen Williams, aren't expected to be back until like early December at the best, when they're going to be reevaluated. Do we think the Thunder can legitimately keep this like small ball lineup going strong until then?
Going strong, I'm not so sure. They're going to have to do it. They have no other choice, right? Unless they try
they could panic trade and for somebody.
Yeah, I don't see that being. That doesn't seem like Sam Presti's modus operandi. Like, that's just not who he has ever been at any point. Like, he'll make a trade to shore up a roster that needs a piece here and there, but he's not going to go all in at this point in the season. So I think they'll try and see if they can figure it out, win as many games as possible, and rely on all their strengths. And they do have enough strengths, especially with their defense playing as well as it does. And they can capitalize on, injured teams just like the Pelicans. So I wouldn't expect them to change anything drastically anytime soon.
That said, if any team could afford to get rid of one measly, heavily protected future first, it would be the team that has more future firsts than the entire NBA combined. And honestly, their defensive scheme, even when they do have Chet Holmgren healthy, when they have their bigs available, they have this like swarming defensive scheme, right? They love sending two to the ball. They love trapping. They love being aggressive with their, plethora of point of attack guards and wings who that's just their style. So if any team is equipped to be able to handle playing small ball for an extended period of time, it's probably going to be the Thunder. Let's take you up northwest, where the Wolves lost for the second game in a row to the Portland Trailblazers. I don't know if we're ready to ring some alarm bells, but let's check in with Ben Beacon, host of Locked On Wolves.
Another night, another worrisome Timberwolves loss. They fall to Portland by 8 points on Wednesday. Their second straight loss in as many nights against these same short-handed Portland Trailblazers. They've now lost 3 in a row. I'm Ben Beacon, host of the Locked On Wolves podcast. Portland didn't have Anthony Simons. They didn't have Robert Williams III. They didn't have DeAndre Ayton, missing 3 of their top 7 rotation players. They beat the Wolves by double figures on Tuesday. The Timberwolves come back and lose again on Wednesday. They led by 10 at the end of the first quarter. Great energy to start the game for the Wolves. It quickly went away. Shaedon Sharpe had a career-high 33 points and got whatever he wanted. The Timberwolves defense in the second half was horrible, and the offense was actually the bigger problem, failing to crack 100 points once again, only 98 points on the night. They shot 17.9% outside the arc, a well-rounded loss for the Timberwolves. They barely did anything right in this one. Make sure to subscribe to Locked On Wolves for all things Timberwolves.
Ben hit the note there. I mean, the Wolves offense, abysmal, couldn't crack 100. Anthony Edwards, 24 points, took him 25 shots to get there. David, are we enough? We're like 10% of the way into the NBA season now. Are we past like the overreaction stages of this? Like at what point do we get to revisit the Timberwolves trading Karl Anthony-Towns and looking at it and being like, man, this might have been a really bad trade for Minnesota?
I think it's still small sample size here, so we can't really extrapolate out for the rest of the season. There's so many ebbs and flows over the course of the season. We're going to see different things. Injuries are going to impact every team at some point or another. Right now, the Wolves just need to find a way to figure it out. A lot of it falls on Anthony Edwards going 0 of 9 from three-point range. They didn't have Mike Conley in the lineup. They got absolutely nothing from Dante DiVincenzo. It was just a perfect storm for Minnesota. And give credit to Portland. They found a way to capitalize.
Donovan Clingan was a monster in this game. Might as well add that in here. I mean, he had 17 points, 12 rebounds, had an assist in there, had 8 blocked shots. The last rookies, I should say, to post these numbers, one of them we just talked about a segment ago, dropped 50, Victor Wembanyama. And then the last rookie to do it before that, another San Antonio Spur, Tim Duncan. So that's some pretty elite company if you are Donovan Clingan. Let's go ahead and take it out to Philadelphia, where the Cavs stay undefeated. The Cavs may never lose again at this point, David. Let's throw it out to Danny Cunningham, host of Locked On Cavs.
Danny Cunningham here after the Cavs beat the Philadelphia 76ers 114-106. The Cavs are 13-0. They become the 6th team in NBA history to get off to a 13-0 start. They won tonight thanks to a great closing effort by Donovan Mitchell. He had 11 of his 23 points in the final 3 minutes of this one, and really a great game from Darius Garland. Garland finished with 25 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. Certainly was the best player on the floor for the Cavs for the majority of the night, but Mitchell did more than scoring as well. He finished with 13 rebounds and 9 assists, was just 1 assist shy of his first career triple-double. Now the Cavs are going to keep having a target on their back. They've got their first NBA Cup game on Friday against the Chicago Bulls. Every team from here on out is going to want to be the team that gives the Cavs their first loss. We'll see if Chicago can on Friday night.
All right, David. Looking at the Cavs' next 5 games, the Cavs play the Bulls, then the Hornets, both at home. They are on the road against the Celtics, at home against the Pelicans and the Raptors. Of any of these 5 teams, who do you think does anybody hand the Cavs their first loss, or are they going 18-0?
It's the Celtics, clearly. I mean, look, they'll win the next 2, and I think that's pretty fine. And at the same time, going into Boston, with Boston playing as well as they have, clearly that's the team that's going to knock off the Cavaliers and kind of remind them, you know what, you kind of still have to go through us if you want to win the East. You know what, that would be the safe money to put on that Boston. But I tell you what, if they make it past that Celtics team 3 games from now,
I don't know when they're. I mean, at that point, 82-0 is on the table. At that point, tell the Warriors to look out. Their record's getting shattered. We might have a perfect season on our hand a little bit further down the line. On the other side, really quickly, though, before we move on to our next game, I want to highlight Jared McCain playing out of his mind. 34 points, 10 of 6 made three-pointers, all career highs. This kid is so good. He has this, I guess, ability, right? Or first off, he plays well beyond his years, and he's got this ability to just understand the flow of a game and really understanding as a shooter how to relocate. That's something that I feel like takes young players a lot of time to really understand and learn. Hey, if I move without the basketball, the ball will find me again later in the possession. He has this thing where he'll drive, he'll start a possession, kick it back out, and then relocate to the corner or back on the wing and get these wide open shots because of it.
Yeah, no, he looks phenomenal. He's so polished, 10 assists too. So he's making plays for others in addition to finding ways of getting his own shot as well. So he looks like he's going to be a really good, complete player. It's just unfortunate that it came in a loss because not enough people will take note that he had this great game, especially with Joel Embiid out, Tyrese Maxey, etc. It was just a great game from him. I think he's got a great career ahead of him.
Honestly, at this point, he needs to be, I think the NBA.com dropped their rookie ladder or whatever. And Jared McCain, I don't even think he was top. He was either 5th or not even top 5 yet on the rookie ladder. So again, the rough start to the season for the 76ers has kind of, not done him a great service as far as his accolades, as far as recognition. But if the 76ers start winning games, then he should get a little bit more attention. Let's take it out to Brooklyn, where the Celtics were able to get the blowout win against the Brooklyn Nets. Let's throw it to John Corrales, host of Locked On Celtics.
The Celtics get 60 points combined from Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. They took turns dominating Tatum. After a slow start, Tatum took over in the first quarter, Jaylen in the second, Tatum again in the third. As the Celtics pulled away in the second half, they started slow. They were kind of settling for threes early on. They weren't really attacking. And then Tatum really started going to the rim. Jaylen did a lot of work in the paint. Everybody started driving. And those drive and kick threes, those were falling. After that first 6-minute stretch, the Celtics shot about 54% from three. That'll beat just about anybody. But it's because they were generating those good shots. The Celtics can get a little three happy, even though I think them taking 50-plus three-pointers a game is fine when they're generating the good ones. This was one of those games. Drive, kick, swing. Sam Hauser started hitting shots. Peyton Pritchard went back to hitting shots. The guys started to feel comfortable. They started to play defense, which they didn't do in their last game. And unlike the Hawks game, unlike their previous games, a comfortable win for the first time in a couple of weeks for the Celtics. Now they get a couple of days off to rest up and get ready for the Toronto Raptors.
All right, David. So this was a good kind of bounce back win for the Celtics after, I don't want to say, I guess it is disappointing, right? If you're the Celtics, you should have beaten the Hawks with no Trae Young in the cup game. Such an exciting game, by the way. We didn't get to cover that game, but holy crap, what a game. Dyson Daniels was incredible in that one, but a good bounce back win for them. Now, after the game, Jason Tatum said that he believes the Celtics have the best bench in the league. We know that Boston clearly has the best top 6 talent in the league. When everybody's healthy, they've got the best 6 guys. Do they also have the best bench, or is that a bit of an outlandish claim from Jason Tatum?
I don't think it's necessarily outlandish. I think there are a couple teams that Oklahoma City in particular, once they're fully healthy, could probably lay a pretty good claim to having a better bench as well. But I mean, they certainly got a great performance tonight. No Al Horford in the lineup either. They still wound up getting some significant contributions from Sam Hauser with 12 points. Peyton Pritchard had 23 points, including 5 of 9 shooting from 3-point range. So they certainly have some key players. They find a way to maximize these guys that might not be able to carve out roles anywhere else in the NBA. So kudos to them. They've got enough talent at the top, though, that makes their job so much easier. So it kind of helps their bench shine a little bit more when you have top tier talent like Brown and Tatum out there.
Let's take it down to Houston for our next game. One of 2 upcoming matchups for the Rockets. They play the Clippers. This tournament stuff is kind of weird, David, right? Like there's so many teams that you wind up playing the same team twice. You play a tournament game, then a regular season game, or a regular season game, then a tournament game. And in this case for the Rockets, it's regular season game Wednesday night here against the Clippers. And they play them again Friday night for their first taste of cup action. It's always fun when James Harden comes back to town against the Rockets, former franchise great. Look, Harden got off to a hot start in this game. He had 12 very quick points in the first quarter, and then Thompson happened. He checked in, played the next 18 minutes straight in the first half, checked in about halfway through the first quarter, held James Harden scoreless the rest of that first half. The dynamic defensive duo, which we've taken to calling the terror twins of Thompson and Tari Eason off the Houston Rockets bench, they have been nothing short of sensational on the defensive side of the floor this season. I've made the claim that I think they're the best duo coming off the bench for any team in the NBA this season. Their impact cannot be understated. However, the Rockets kind of screwed around at the end of this game. They let the Clippers third stringers get back into it. At the top of the fourth quarter, Ty Lue decided that he was just not going to plug his starters back, and he pulled Norm Powell out super early, and he let the third stringers kind of go. And Ty Lue's a guy, right? He believes in hard work, players that are going to play with the right energy, that kind of stuff. So maybe he felt like he didn't get that right effort out of the starters. And they made a game of it. They cut it back down to like a 2-possession game at one point late in the fourth quarter. And it kind of looked like the Rockets were going to choke this one away. They held on. They got the win, 111-103. David, I got to ask you, though, how serious are you taking the Rockets this season? They're 8-4 now.
I mean, they look great. Like, you just asked a question about the deepest bench, right? Given that Eason and Thompson have been playing as well as they do, how does their bench stack up against some of these top tier teams around the league? Because, I mean, clearly they have the talent across the board. They look like a great team. Like, I mean, even coming from a Miami perspective, a lot of people in Miami are saying, oh, no, trade Jimmy Butler. Houston would want to trade for Jimmy Butler. I always counter with why. They're playing damn good basketball without Jimmy Butler. They don't need him on that roster. So to me, I think they're a good team. They're going to continue to make some noise. I'm not sure exactly where they would fall in the hierarchy of the Western Conference, as deep as it is, but I think they'll probably be a playoff team at this point.
The biggest issue for the Rockets is they still don't know who their go-to guy is. Like, some nights it's Alperen Sengun, some nights it's Jalen Green, some nights Fred VanVleet turns it back on and looks like his, vintage all-star self. And maybe that's just how this team's going to operate through the rest of the season. They're going to do it, as a collective unit, and it could be any guy on any given night. But that's also kind of bitten them in the butt at times where they don't know who to go to in the closing moments of a game, which is why you hear those rumors about, man, they need a guy. They need a Jimmy Butler. They need to be the team at the front of the line trying to trade for Giannis if he asks out of Milwaukee. So we'll see what ultimately happens there. Let's take you to our final game of the night. The Orlando Magic getting the win against the Indiana Pacers. Let's throw it out to Philip Rossman-Reich down in Orlando for the recap.
This is Philip Rossman-Reich, the host of Locked On Magic, and the Orlando Magic have done something that very few teams have been able to do against the Indiana Pacers in the last few years, holding them to 90 points, a 94-90 victory over the Pacers. The Magic give up just 18 points in the fourth quarter and really led with their defense. We know, and if you've watched this Magic team at all this year, they can be absolutely devastating on defense. They can go 4 or 5 minutes giving up precious few points, frustrating their opponents. And that's what this Magic team is going to need to lead them and guide them through the season. This is a defensive team. They entered the game second in the league in defensive rating, and they're playing every bit of it as they go through the course of the season. More than that, this game was a gut check against a playoff quality opponent, a team that they're probably going to be fighting for the rest of the season in the playoff chase. They were down by 10. They could have given up. They could have given in on the second night of a back-to-back, but this team rallied and made this game their own. The Magic are here to stay, even without Paolo Banchero.
David, I think we have to eat a little bit of crow here, because at one point on one of our shows, as soon as Paolo Banchero went down, the Magic were on that skid, and Philip was very optimistic that they had found something at the end of that road trip where they went 0-5 on the road. They've reeled off 4 straight wins. Franz Wagner has stepped up in a really big way for this Magic team. He had in this game, 29 points on, it took him 24 shots to get there. Yeah, not great efficiency, but he got the job done, right? And there's something about a team like the Magic that can get you wins with their defense, right? That can hold on and that can hold a high-octane offense like the Pacers to just 90 points. That's pretty impressive stuff.
Are they a high-octane offense? Like they were. I don't know if we could still use that label on this team, given that Tyrese Halliburton is held to 9 points. And a lot of the credit should go to Orlando for shutting him down. But at the same time, like, they've struggled offensively this year in a way that I don't think a lot of people expected them to. So to me, Orlando has done a pretty good job. They're still 7-6. They're still going to be struggling to find their identity. I don't think they have the kind of talent and offensive strengths where they can kind of rely on their defense so completely. They're going to need at some point those shots to fall in order to bail them out. But kudos to them. Big win. Good game. I like their roster. I like what they're capable of doing. But man, they're so much better with Banchero out there. They desperately need him back.
So are you selling Pacers stock then at this point? Do you think they're just slumping to start the season, or do you think they're like actively regressing?
It's the Eastern Conference, man. Everybody's regressing at some point. Miami, New York, Indiana. Clearly, all these teams are struggling. I mean, what is it? We got 2 teams over 500. So you know what? I don't take the East all that seriously this season. How about that?
You know what? Abolish the Eastern Conference, Adam Silver. Give us the top 20 teams, just because all the teams at the bottom of the West are begging to get into the play-in tournament race, and we got under 500 teams that are currently sitting, firmly in playoff spots in the Eastern Conference. Oh man! All right, well that's going to do it for our 11-game slate here at Locked On NBA Game Night. Thanks so much for being here with us at Locked On NBA Game Night. For your next listen, go find the Locked On Show for your favorite team. Until then, we will catch you guys on our very next Locked On NBA Game Night.